Addiction is not born from pleasure. It's born from imbalance. What if every woman who ever left you was only reacting to a pattern you never saw? Pause. Look closer. Every addiction begins as an imbalance. An unseen tilt in the emotional field. It doesn't scream. It hums soft, steady, like an undercurrent beneath calm water. You think love is born when two hearts meet. But real attraction is not mutual. It is magnetic. One side pulls, the other moves. That's the hidden pattern beneath every emotional bond. She never fell for you because of your kindness. She fell into you because of your gravity. And when that gravity disappeared, so did she. You believed that if you gave more, she would stay. If you loved harder, she would see. If you proved your loyalty, she would value it. But giving more to a system already unbalanced doesn't fix it. It deepens the tilt. She didn't leave because you weren't enough. She left because your energy became flat. No contrast, no tension, no rhythm. Every heartbeat needs a pause. Every melody needs silence. Every desire needs distance. Addiction lives in the spaces between presence and absence, between touch and withdrawal, between certainty and mystery. The moment she can predict you, you stop existing in her nervous system. The loop breaks. And when the loop breaks, the craving dies. Because craving is not about love. It's about uncertainty. It's the body's way of chasing equilibrium through imbalance. Dopamine doesn't come from having. It comes from almost having. From reaching, missing, reaching again. And you kept removing the reach. You gave before she reached. You answered before she wondered. You arrived before she missed you. So the current reversed. She became the voltage. You became the circuit. She set the rhythm. You danced to it. And you called it love. But love without polarity becomes peace. And peace without tension becomes boredom. Boredom is the death of desire. Every man she ever left was peaceful, predictable, safe. Every man she still thinks about carried chaos. Not loud chaos, silent chaos. A rhythm she could never quite map. Addiction is the echo of imbalance. One side vibrates stronger. The other side starts to tremble in response. Soon she can't tell if the tremble is fear or desire. And that confusion, that trembling, becomes the thread she can't stop touching. She says she wants love, but her biology wants contrast, safety and danger, closeness and distance, order and tension. You thought love was peace, but peace doesn't hold attention. Only gravity does. And gravity is born when one side refuses to orbit. You tried to orbit her mood, her tone, her silence. Every time she pulled away, you chased. Every time she tested, you explained. Every time she withdrew, you begged. But chasing reverses gravity. Begging destroys tension. And explanation kills mystery. A woman cannot be addicted to what she fully understands. Her curiosity must ache. Her mind must wander in circles around what you don't reveal. Her body must learn the rhythm of your distance. That is how the bond forms, through rhythm, not words. You believed love is about alignment. It's not. It's about asymmetry managed by awareness. The one who holds awareness shapes the field. You were reacting. She was leading. And you wondered why you felt invisible. Invisibility is not punishment. It's physics. Light bends toward mass. If your center has no mass, no boundary, no silence, no absence, then light passes through you. You become transparent. She can't see what doesn't resist. Presence is resistance. Not aggression, not control, just the quiet refusal to dissolve. That refusal creates weight. And weight is what the feminine orbits. Every man who becomes irreplaceable carries this quiet weight. He speaks less, moves slower, waits longer, not because he is playing a game, but because he understands rhythm. He knows the pause carries more voltage than the touch. He knows distance feeds desire. He knows unpredictability is not chaos. It's art. Addiction begins with the absence that has meaning. Not every absence matters, only the kind that feels intentional. When you withdraw without resentment, without demand, her mind begins to burn in silence. She tries to fill the blanks. She imagines you. She rewrites the memory. And in doing so, she deepens the bond herself. Every craving is self-created. Every obsession is self-fed. All you did was hold the silence long enough for her to hear her own hunger. That's the pattern. That's the architecture beneath every emotional addiction. It's not in your words, your gifts, your promises. It's in your rhythm, the timing of your absence, the gravity of your stillness. You want to know why you were forgotten? Because you were constant. Because you were easy to reach. Because you were a sound with no echo. Men with gravity do not echo. They resonate. Their silence lingers. Their presence bends the air. They move like inevitability. If you ever felt invisible, understand this. You were not unseen because you lacked love. You were unseen because your energy carried no cost. What is free is rarely remembered. What is rare shapes memory. Memory shapes craving. And craving is the seed of addiction. In this world, emotion obeys power. And power is never loud. It is quiet, slow, predictable at the core, unpredictable at the edges. She doesn't crave chaos. She craves the man who stands still in it. The man who doesn't chase her storm, but lets her storm orbit his calm. You don't fix the imbalance by doing more. You fix it by becoming more. More presence, more silence, more weight. Addiction is not born from pleasure. It's born from imbalance. And until you understand the laws of imbalance, you will keep losing women to men who don't even try because they understand rhythm. This is where it begins. The hidden pattern beneath every addiction. You will see how it rises, how it consumes, and how it can be reversed. In the end, you'll learn not to chase her attention, but to become the axis her emotions can't escape. Breathe. Listen, because everything you thought was love was only gravity waiting for you to return to the center. Part 1: The Illusion of Mutual Desire. Every man wants to believe in mutual desire. That when she looks into your eyes, something equal is exchanged. That love is two souls moving toward each other in balance. But that belief is the first illusion. No bond begins in symmetry. Every bond begins with a pull. A difference in charge, a shift in gravity. One body moves first. One field absorbs the other. Attraction is never fair. It is never mutual. It is always magnetic. You think she fell for you because she wanted you. But desire is not about wanting a person. It is about what that person awakens. She doesn't crave you. She craves the chemical storm that your presence creates inside her. Her mind can praise your kindness, your humor, your loyalty. But her body remembers something else. The slight unpredictability in your tone, the delay between her text and your reply, the way your attention felt scarce enough to earn. That is what her nervous system calls value. She can't name it. She will tell herself stories that you are different, deep, safe yet dangerous. But what she's really describing is the feeling of imbalance. The same imbalance that keeps a flame alive. When she first met you, she felt that voltage. It wasn't love. It was movement. She stepped into your field, felt the air shift, and called it connection. But connection is a story the mind tells to make sense of gravity. Gravity doesn't ask permission. It simply pulls. Every addiction begins with this illusion of mutual desire. Two people think they're moving toward each other. In truth, one is standing still and the other is orbiting. You believe if you just give enough, love will balance itself. But giving does not balance anything. It amplifies the tilt. The more you give, the more she receives without resistance. And the more she receives, the less she feels because feeling requires friction. And friction dies when everything is easy. That is why so many men lose their axis once they fall in love. They start chasing her comfort instead of commanding the rhythm. They mistake her peace for her loyalty. They think if she's calm, she'll stay. But no addiction starts from peace. It begins where tension meets desire. Look at how she breathes when you are near but not touching. Her breath changes. Her pulse rises. That's not affection. That's chemical imbalance. Dopamine, cortisol, adrenaline. The mind confuses it with love, but the body knows. It's the edge of chaos that creates attachment. When you soothe that edge too soon, you kill the very thing that made her crave you. You turn voltage into comfort. And comfort is not addictive. She doesn't need to feel safe with you. She needs to feel alive. Alive means slightly unstable. Alive means her emotions have something to orbit around. You became invisible not because she stopped caring, but because you stopped creating gravity. In the beginning, you had it without trying. You were mysterious because you didn't yet care to explain yourself. You were unpredictable because you hadn't yet submitted to her rhythm. You didn't respond right away because your life still had weight. That weight was your magnetism. Then she began to matter. You started calculating. You started performing. You started adjusting to her moods instead of anchoring them. And slowly, without noticing, you gave her your axis. You stopped being the sun. You became the planet and she began to drift. Men confuse affection with control. They think giving love will inspire loyalty, but affection without scarcity is forgettable and control without presence is empty. You don't keep her by holding tighter. You keep her by becoming heavier emotionally, spiritually, energetically. Heavier doesn't mean darker. It means still. A still man creates motion in others. A moving man creates noise. She doesn't want to lead. She only leads when you abandon your axis. And she doesn't even realize it. Her instincts simply respond to the vacuum left by your uncertainty. In that vacuum, her desire decays because there's nothing left to orbit. No gravity, no asymmetry, only peace. And peace kills craving. Every woman's emotions oscillate. Rise, fall, retreat, return. They move like tides. When a man's energy shifts with hers, the ocean becomes flat. But when he holds his shoreline, solid, constant, she crashes, retreats, and returns again and again. Not because she chooses to, because nature commands it. That is the hidden law of attraction. The feminine expands. The masculine contains. Containment is not control. It's direction. It's what gives her chaos a home. And the home is what she mistakes for love. When you stop being the container, she feels lost. Not in you, but in herself. And when she can no longer feel herself around you, she leaves. Not out of anger, out of instinct. Because her body only knows one truth. It craves the mirror of its own energy. A field strong enough to hold it, but distant enough to never collapse into it. You believed her words. I just want someone who loves me for who I am. But her biology says something else. I want someone whose presence reorganizes who I am. That's why she dreams about men who don't explain themselves. Why she remembers the one who walked away. Why she returns to the man she claims she shouldn't. She isn't chasing him. She's chasing the feeling that only imbalance can produce. The feeling of not being in control. The feeling of losing herself. That's what she calls chemistry. And you can become that gravity again. Not by pretending to be mysterious, not by playing games, but by anchoring yourself so deeply in your purpose that she feels your stillness like a law of nature. When you speak less, she listens more. When you delay, her mind fills the silence with stories. When you withdraw, she starts to crave your return. This is not manipulation. This is rhythm. The rhythm of energy exchange between masculine and feminine poles. The rhythm that builds tension, releases it, and builds it again. That rhythm, not love, is what creates emotional addiction. She doesn't stay because you loved her, right? She stays because your presence created imbalance and her body learned to call that imbalance home. You must unlearn the myth of mutual desire. There is no equality in attraction. There is only polarity. The one who sets the rhythm becomes the one who defines the experience. Desire is not a dialogue. It's a dance. And every dance has a lead. If you stop leading, the music dies. So keep watching because the next truth will show you how the first spark of this loop begins. The trigger that turns curiosity into craving and craving into emotional dependence. No addiction starts from peace. It begins where tension meets desire. Part 2, The Trigger. How emotional loops begin. Every addiction begins with rhythm. Not the steady rhythm of comfort, but the broken rhythm of uncertainty. The human mind doesn't crave peace. It craves anticipation. The first time she met you, she didn't fall for your face, your words, or your story. She fell for the space between your presence and your absence. The way you appeared and disappeared. Not too long, not too soon. That spacing became a pulse and her nervous system began to dance to it. It started innocently. You replied, then you didn't. You smiled, then withdrew. You touched, then turned away. Her body registered it as danger. Her mind translated it as desire. Every emotional addiction follows the same law. Intermittent reward, a pattern of pleasure and withdrawal, attention and silence, warmth and distance. The brain can't resist it. When reward becomes unpredictable, dopamine surges higher than before. That surge doesn't come from what she receives. It comes from not knowing when she'll receive it again. When you were steady, she felt safe. When you were inconsistent, she felt alive. And that right there is the trigger. She doesn't remember your compliments. She remembers your pauses. She remembers the night you looked at her and didn't explain what you were thinking. She remembers that silence because her mind couldn't fill it and her body couldn't rest inside it. Addiction is born in that silence. The body begins to chase the next dose, not of pleasure, but of certainty. She starts checking her phone. She replays your last conversation. She wonders what she said wrong. Each question releases a drop of dopamine, the chemistry of pursuit. The longer she doesn't know, the deeper her mind loops. The deeper it loops, the stronger you become in her imagination. It's not logic, it's biology. Her nervous system turns you into a puzzle. And the human mind is addicted to solving puzzles that move. If you text every morning, she forgets you by noon. If you text when she stops expecting it, you light up the reward system again. It's not the message, it's the timing. It's the unpredictability wrapped inside stability. You don't create craving by doing more. You create it by controlling rhythm. By giving enough to awaken hope and withholding enough to keep it breathing. That's what her body responds to. A loop that never quite closes. When you pull away, she feels a drop in her chemistry. Cortisol rises. Dopamine falls. She feels the ache of absence. And her mind starts searching for relief. When you reappear, even briefly, dopamine floods back in. She feels peace. She calls it love. But it's not love. It's neurochemical relief. That relief becomes the hook. The cycle repeats. Presence, absence, relief, presence, absence, relief. Until one day, she's no longer choosing you. Her nervous system is. You've become her loop. And once that loop forms, no logic, no advice, no warning from her friends can break it. Because the loop doesn't live in her mind. It lives in her body. Every woman who keeps coming back to the same man isn't chasing him. She's chasing the chemical rhythm he created, the unpredictable dose of emotion she can't predict but can't forget. You've heard her say, "I don't know why I keep thinking about him." She's telling the truth. She doesn't know. Because addiction hides behind logic. It pretends to be emotion, but it's simply repetition coded in biology. Her body has learned your pattern. Her pulse adjusts to your silence. Her mood depends on your attention. She's not remembering your kindness. She's remembering your inconsistency. That's what burned your imprint into her. The tragedy is that most men destroy this rhythm by trying to be perfect. They mistake predictability for security. They give constant reassurance, constant messages, constant presence. They think that's what love means. But predictability is the death of desire. When she knows exactly when you'll appear, exactly how you'll respond, exactly how you'll make her feel, the loop ends and so does her attraction. You become emotionally transparent. She can see through every move, and when she can predict you, she escapes you. The paradox is brutal. The moment you remove uncertainty, you remove emotion. Because emotion lives inside uncertainty. That's why good men often lose women to dangerous men. Not because they lack value, but because they lack rhythm. They are a steady hum in a world addicted to the thrill of unpredictability. The dangerous man doesn't chase. He times. He doesn't explain. He disappears. He doesn't give everything. He leaves space. And that space becomes her mirror. In that mirror, she sees her own chaos reflected back, and she mistakes that chaos for connection. It's not about cruelty, it's about polarity. The masculine creates space. The feminine fills it. When you create no space, you remove the dance. Be unpredictable, not in logic, but in rhythm, in the cadence of your attention, in the weight of your silence. Your silence should not